Hello friends, I am welcoming you all in my lecture on the topic Methods of Studying Correlation. This lecture is available in both English and Hindi language version. In this series of correlation concept, in the last few videos I discussed about introduction of correlation, types of correlation, correlation coefficients. In the present video, I will discuss how to study correlation. In the next few videos, I will discuss uses of correlation and few solved examples on the basis of topic correlation. Correlation can be studied using these methods of correlation study. The first is a scatter diagram, the second is correlation graph, and the third is Karl-Pearson coefficient of correlation. First, I will discuss a scatter diagram. A scatter diagram is an easy and simple method of studying correlation between two variables. If x and y are pair of variables, the values of the variable x are marked in the x-axis and the value of variable y are marked in the y-axis. Suppose in a farm there are so many individuals, there are so many animals. For each animal, in the each animal, you will get variable x and y. Suppose variable x is body weight and variable y is height of the animal. So you will get body weight and height of the animal in each and every individuals of the population. Variable x are marked in the x-axis and variable y are marked in the y-axis. A point is plotted against each value of x and the corresponding y values. For each animal, you will get value for x and value for y. Using these two values for each animal, you will get one point in your graph. You will put a point on the x-axis for x variable. You will put a point on y-axis for y variable. When you will join these 2 points on the graph, you will get a point. That point corresponds to that particular animal. A group of dots is obtained and this is called the scatter diagram. For each individual, for each animal in the population, you will get one dots, and these groups of dots are called as a scatter diagram. The nature of the scatter of dots in the diagram gives an idea of the nature of correlation between the variables. By studying the scatteredness of all those dots in the graph, you can tell whether the correlation is strong or weak, whether the correlation is positive or negative. If plotted dots form a straight line running left to right in the upward direction, the correlation is perfectly positive. If all the dots are in a single line running left to right in upward direction, then you can say the correlation is perfectly positive. Similarly, if the dots are scattered around a straight line running from left to right in an upward direction, then the correlation between the two variables is positive. Here, correlation between the two variables is positive, not perfectly positive, because the dots are scattered around a straight line. They are not falling on a straight line, but they are scattered around the straight line. So the correlation is positive. Here correlation is strong but not perfect. If the dots of the scatter diagram form a straight line running from left to right in the downward direction, the correlation between the two variables is perfectly negative. Similar to perfect positive, here also the dots are in a single line, but the line is falling, going in downward direction from left to right. So the correlation is negative. Similarly, if the dots are scattered around a straight line running from left to right in a downward direction, then the correlation between two variables is negative. The dots are not on the straight line, but they are scattered around the straight line. So correlation is negative, and dots are going in downward direction from left to right. So correlation is negative. In case where there is no correlation between the variables, the scatter of dot in the diagram will not form either a straight line or even a flow of dots from left to right in the upward or downward direction. So here there is no correlation among the variable. Now the second approach is correlation graph. With the help of this approach also we can study correlation. It is used when the given variables are with reference to a period of time. Correlation graph is the ideal method to understand the relationship between the two variables. Here, in the case of correlation graph, two variables are studied in reference to period of time. What is the pattern of change in two variables? We are seeing the pattern of change in two variables with respect to time. To draw the correlation graph, the period of time is marked on the x-axis and the values of the two variables on the y-axis. The points of a variable plotted against time are joined by a line to form a curve. Different curves are constructed for each of the two variables. Here we have two variables, so we will get two curves, and on the basis of on analyzing these two curves we can say what is the correlation between these two variables. In a correlation graph, if the curve of the two variables are close to each other and if they move in the same direction, the variables have a positive correlation. If the two variables are very much parallel to each other and they are moving in the same direction, then we can say these two variables are having positive correlation. On the other hand, if the curves of the two variables move in opposite directions, the variables are negatively correlated. Here in this diagram we can see the two lines coincide each other, so there is perfect positive correlation. Here there are no two lines, there is only a single line. That means the two lines overlapping each other, so the correlation is perfect positive. Here we can see that the two lines are very close to each other and they are more or less parallel, so correlation is strong, positive correlation. Here the two lines are close, but there is also some deviations, so the correlation is moderate positive. Here we can see the dots, the lines are going downward from left to right, so correlation is negative, and the correlation is negative, and it's a strong negative correlation because the two lines are very much parallel to each other. Here there is no two lines, there is no any flow, so there is no correlation between the two variables. And this is the third approach for studying correlation. This is Carl Pearson coefficient of correlation. Carl Pearson's coefficient of correlation is also known as coefficient of correlation. The coefficient of correlation, generally denoted as small r, Carl Pearson coefficient of correlation is generally symbolized as small r, and it gives an exact idea about the degree of linear relationship between the two variables x and y, and is defined as, or it is formulated as this formula. With the help of this formula you can calculate correlation, Carl Pearson correlation coefficient. So in the numerical problem video I will discuss how to calculate correlation coefficient. I will give some numerical values, and on the basis of those numerical values this formula will be more clear in that lecture. So friends, thanks for watching my video. In this lecture I discussed about correlation coefficient. I believe you understand this lecture and also enjoyed. If not, comment me, I will clarify your doubts. Thanks for watching my video. Thank you very much.